The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the penthouse office, each drop exploding like tiny bullets against the glass. Kim Tae-won stood with his hands clasped behind his back, staring out at the Seoul skyline, his silhouette sharp against the city lights bleeding through the storm. He didn't turn when the door opened, didn't acknowledge the presence that entered with measured, deliberate steps. "You wanted to see me, father." The voice was calm, respectful, but there was an edge beneath it that Tae-won had been hearing more frequently in recent months. His son, Kim Jae-sung, had always been obedient, brilliant even, groomed from birth to inherit an empire that existed in the shadows between legitimate business and something far darker. At 28, Jae-sung had proven himself capable, ruthless when necessary, strategic beyond his years. But love made men stupid. "Sit," Tae-won said without turning. Jae-sung remained standing. "I prefer not to." Now Tae-won did turn, his eyes, cold and calculating, the eyes that had built an empire through blood and cunning, fixed on his son. Jae-sung stood tall in his tailored black suit, his jaw set with determination that reminded Tae-won uncomfortably of himself at that age. "Then speak quickly. I have a meeting with the Incheon suppliers in 20 minutes. I want to marry her." The words hung in the air between them like a challenge. Tae-won's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind his eyes. He moved to his desk, an enormous slab of mahogany that had once belonged to a Japanese crime lord his father had eliminated in the 80s, and poured himself 2 fingers of whiskey. "Her name is Dr. Amani Okafor," Jae-sung continued, his voice steady. "She's a lecturer at Seoul National University, Economics and International Development. She's brilliant, father. She has 2 PhDs, speaks 5 languages, and—" "She's African." Tae-won's voice was flat, emotionless. "She's from Niger, and yes, she's black, if that's going to be an issue." "Everything is an issue, Jae-sung." Tae-won took a slow sip of his whiskey, letting the burn settle in his chest. "You think I care about her skin color? You think I built what we have by being small-minded about race?" He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I care about exposure. I care about weakness. I care about you making decisions with your cock instead of your brain." Jae-sung's hands clenched into fists at his sides, but his voice remained controlled. "I've known her for 8 months. This isn't some infatuation. She doesn't know who I am, who we are. To her, I'm just Kim Jae-sung, a graduate student taking advanced courses. She has no idea about any of this." "Then she's a fool or you're a liar. Which is it?" "She's careful, reserved. She keeps her distance from everyone, actually. It took me 3 months just to get her to have coffee with me." Tae-won studied his son, reading the micro-expressions that flickered across his face. He had taught Jae-sung to hide his emotions, to be unreadable in negotiations and confrontations. But love, that damned emotion, was making him transparent. "Tell me everything about her, and I mean everything." Jae-sung had anticipated this. He pulled out his phone and transferred a file to the large screen on the wall. Images appeared, surveillance photos, documents, records. Amani Okafor's face appeared, beautiful and serious, her dark skin luminous even in the grainy photographs taken from a distance. She was captured leaving the university, sitting alone in a cafe with books spread before her, walking through Namsan Park with her head tilted up toward the cherry blossoms. She came to Seoul 3 years ago on a research fellowship. Her family is in Niger. Her father was a university professor, her mother a doctor, both deceased. She has 2 younger brothers still in Niamey, both in university. She sends money home every month. She lives in a modest apartment in Seoul, walks to work most days, has exactly 4 friends that she sees regularly, all academics. No romantic relationships since she arrived in Korea. No debts beyond her student loans, which she's paying off systematically. No criminal record, not even a parking ticket. "No one is that clean," Tae-won said, leaning forward. "I thought the same thing. I had Lee Hae-young investigate deeper. 6 months of surveillance, complete background checks, financial records going back 10 years. Jae-sung paused. "She's exactly who she appears to be, father. A brilliant, dedicated scholar who works too hard and barely has a personal life. Everyone has secrets." "Perhaps, But if she does, they're buried so deep that even our resources can't find them. T1 drained his whiskey and poured another. He didn't offer one to Yi-sung. And she has no idea that you're my son. No idea that you're next in line to control half of Seoul's underground operations. No idea that the money in your account could buy her university 10 times over. None. She thinks you're what exactly? A student. A doctoral candidate in international business. I attend her lectures. I've written papers for her courses. She thinks I'm interested in economic development in emerging markets. And when she discovers the truth. For the first time, Yi-sung's composure cracked slightly. I'll handle it. You'll handle it, T1 repeated, his voice dripping with skepticism. He walked back to the window, glass in hand. Do you know why I never remarried after your mother died? Yi-sung didn't answer. They rarely spoke of his mother. Because love is a vulnerability, and in our world, vulnerabilities get people killed. Your mother knew what I was, what we were. She was born into this life, understood the rules, accepted the risks. And still, they used her to get to me. Still, I had to watch her bleed out on our kitchen floor because I loved her and someone knew it. That was 20 years ago. The people responsible are dead. You made sure of that. But the lesson remains. T1 turned back to face his son. You want to bring an outsider into this family, a woman who represents everything we are not. A foreigner, an academic, someone who believes in laws and justice and all those pretty concepts that we exist outside of. Do you understand what you're asking? I understand perfectly, and I'm not asking, Father. I'm informing you. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. T1's eyes went deadly cold, and for a moment, he looked exactly like what he was, a man who had killed his first rival at 17 and never looked back. You're informing me, he repeated softly, dangerously. Yi-sung held his ground. Yes, I love her. I will marry her, with your blessing or without it. But I would prefer to have it because I would prefer not to have to choose between my family and my future. The silence stretched between them, thick with threat and challenge. Outside, thunder rolled across the city, and lightning illuminated both their faces in stark relief. Then unexpectedly, T1 smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. You have your mother's stubbornness. It's what got her killed, you know. He set down his glass with a decisive click. Fine. You want to marry this woman, this Dr. Amani Okafor from Niger who reads books and believes in a better world. But we do this my way. What does that mean? It means she gets tested. It means I need to know if she can survive in our world, if she can be trusted with our secrets, if she's as strong as you seem to think she is. Love is pretty, Yi-sung, but it's useless if the person you love becomes a liability. Yi-sung's jaw tightened. I won't let you hurt her. I won't hurt her, but I will test her, and if she fails, T1 spread his hands, then you'll know I was right and you'll walk away. Can you agree to that? Every instinct screamed at Yi-sung to refuse, to grab Amani and run as far from his father's influence as possible. But he knew his father, knew that running would only paint a target on both their backs. The only way forward was through. What kind of test? Nothing that will physically harm her, but she needs to know who you are, what you are, and then we'll see if her pretty ideals can survive reality. T1 picked up his phone and pressed a button. Send him in. The door opened, and a man entered, Lee Min-ho, his father's right hand and the closest thing Yi-sung had to an uncle. Lee's face was carefully neutral. Lee will handle the arrangements. 3 months from now, there will be a situation. Dr. Okafor will discover exactly who you are in the worst possible way, and we'll see what she does with that information. You're going to terrify her. I'm going to give her the truth. If she loves you, really loves you, she'll stay. If she runs, then you'll know she wasn't strong enough for this life. T1 returned to his desk. And Yi-sung, if she runs, you let her go. No following, no protecting from the shadows, no sending money to her brothers or any of that sentimental nonsense. She walks away completely and you accept it. Do we have an agreement? Yi-sung wanted to refuse, wanted to tell his father to go to hell. But he thought of Amani, brilliant, principled, beautiful Amani, and he thought about the alternative. His father simply refusing, potentially making her disappear or worse. At least this way, she would know the truth. She would have a choice. Fine, but I have conditions too. T1 raised an eyebrow. Speak. She's not harmed in any way during this test of yours. Not a single hair on her head. And after it's done, no matter what she chooses, she goes free. No retaliation, no cleanup, no convenient accidents. She lives her life completely untouched by us. Your word, father. For a long moment, T1 studied his son. Then he nodded once sharply. You have my word. Lee will witness it. Lee bowed slightly, his presence serving as the seal on this dark contract. Now get out, T1 said, turning back to his documents. I have actual business to attend to. Lee will contact you with the details. Yi-sung left the office, his heart hammering in his chest. He had just agreed to put the woman he loved through some kind of trial by fire orchestrated by one of Seoul's most dangerous men. What the hell had he just done? 3 months. That was all the time Yi-sung had before his father's plan, whatever it was, would go into motion. 90 days to be with Amani without the shadow of his real life hanging over them. 90 days before everything changed. He found her where he always did on Wednesday evenings, in her office on the 4th floor of the Social Sciences building, surrounded by towers of books and papers, her reading glasses perched on her nose as she frowned at her computer screen. The warm light from her desk lamp caught the rich undertones of her dark skin, and something in his chest tightened. How was he supposed to protect her from his world when his world was so determined to test her? Yi-sung, she looked up, and her serious expression softened into something that wasn't quite a smile but close. Amani didn't smile easily. It was one of the 1,000 things he loved about her. When she did smile, really smile, it felt like earning something precious. I didn't expect you tonight. Don't you have that presentation tomorrow? Finished it this afternoon. He closed the door behind him and leaned against it. I wanted to see you. Now she did smile, small and private. You saw me this morning, in class. That was professional. This is personal. She removed her glasses and rubbed her eyes. Personal usually means you want to discuss something I'd rather not discuss. Am I right? Too perceptive. It was going to be her greatest asset or her biggest danger. Have dinner with me, he said instead. Not campus food, real dinner. There's a place in Itaewon that. Itaewon is expensive. I can afford it. You're a graduate student. You should be surviving on ramyeon and regret like the rest of us did. I have scholarships and savings. Let me do something nice for you, Amani. You work too hard. She studied him with those intelligent, dark eyes that seemed to see through every layer of pretense. This feels like you're trying to distract me from something. Can't I just want to have dinner with a beautiful woman? You can, but you usually don't change plans last minute unless something is bothering you. She stood, gathering her papers. What happened today, Yi-sung? He should have known better than to think he could hide anything from her. She read people the way she read economic theories, carefully, analytically, seeing patterns where others saw only chaos. Family stuff, he said, which was perhaps the most honest thing he'd said all day. Nothing I can't handle, but it made me realize I don't spend enough time telling you how much you mean to me. Something flickered across her face, vulnerability, hope, fear, all mixed together. Amani was guarded about her emotions, always had been. She'd told him once that she'd learned early that showing too much feeling gave people power over you. If only she knew how much power she already had over him. Yi-sung, she moved around her desk, stopping just in front of him. They were close enough that he could smell her perfume, something subtle with notes of vanilla and amber. We agreed to take things slowly. I know. We agreed that this was casual until I'm no longer your lecturer. I know that too. Then, why does this feel like you're about to say something that changes everything? Because in 3 months, everything would change whether he said anything or not. Because his father was going to tear away every comfortable lie between them and expose the truth in the cruelest way possible. Because he needed her to know, in whatever way he could tell her now, that what came next wasn't his choice. Have dinner with me, he said again, softer this time. Just dinner. No declarations, no pressure. I just want to spend time with you outside these walls." She searched his face for another long moment, then nodded. "Okay, but somewhere modest. I'm not comfortable with expensive restaurants. There's a place in Hongdae, small, family-owned. They make the best kimchi jjigae in Seoul. Would that work?" "That works." She grabbed her coat, a worn navy pea coat that she'd probably owned for years. Everything Amani owned, she kept until it fell apart. She was careful with money in a way that spoke of someone who had known scarcity. "But you're still going to tell me what's really bothering you?" "Maybe." "Definitely." They left the university together, walking through the cool spring evening. Seoul was beautiful this time of year. The cherry blossoms just past their peak, petals drifting through the air like pink snow. Students crowded the streets around campus, laughing and talking, living their uncomplicated lives. Jae-sung had never had an uncomplicated life, and in 3 months, neither would Amani. "My father called me today," he said as they walked. "We don't have the easiest relationship." "You've mentioned that. You said he's in business." "Import-export," Jae-sung said, which was technically true. They did import and export things. Most of them just weren't legal. "He has specific expectations about my future. And you studying economic development doesn't meet those expectations." "Not exactly." Amani was quiet for a moment. "My father was the same way. He wanted me to study medicine like my mother. When I told him I wanted to pursue economics, that I wanted to understand why some countries prospered while others suffered, he didn't speak to me for 6 months." "What changed his mind?" "He died." Her voice was flat, emotionless. "Heart attack. He was only 53. My mother died 2 years later. Cancer." She glanced at him. "So I understand difficult family relationships, and I understand the weight of expectations." They reached the restaurant, a tiny place wedged between a convenience store and a noribang. Inside, it was warm and loud, filled with the smell of simmering stew and grilled meat. The owner, a woman in her 60s, greeted them with a knowing smile and led them to a corner table. "You come here often?" Amani asked, amused. "Weekly. Mrs. Kang reminds me of my mother." "I didn't know your mother had passed. I'm sorry." "Long time ago, 20 years. He ordered for both of them in rapid Korean, then switched back to English. "She was killed in a car accident. At least that's what they told me." Amani's eyebrows rose. "They told you. You don't believe it." He'd said too much, but maybe that was the point. Maybe he needed to start preparing her, even if he couldn't tell her everything yet. "My family's business sometimes attracts the wrong kind of attention. There were rumors it wasn't really an accident. But I was 8. They kept the details from me." She reached across the table and took his hand. Her touch was warm, grounding. That must have been terrible, to lose her so young and to never know for certain what happened. "It taught me that secrets are dangerous, that hiding the truth from the people you love only hurts them more in the end." "Is that why you're being cryptic tonight?" "Because there's some truth you're trying to figure out how to tell me." Too smart. She was too smart. "Maybe I just wanted to tell you that I'm falling in love with you," he said, "and that scares me more than I want to admit." The words hung between them, raw and honest. Amani's eyes widened slightly, and for a moment she looked younger, vulnerable, like the careful walls she maintained were in danger of crumbling. "Jae-sung, you don't have to say it back. I know we agreed to go slowly. But after talking to my father today, I realized that life is uncertain, and I don't want to waste time pretending I don't feel what I feel." "Life is uncertain," she agreed quietly. "That's why I'm careful. That's why I don't let people in easily, because everyone I've ever loved has left one way or another. My parents, my friends back home, everyone. I'm not going anywhere." "You don't know that. No one knows that." The food arrived. Steaming bowls of stew and perfectly grilled mackerel. They ate in companionable silence for a while, but Jae-sung could see her thinking, processing, trying to decide something. Finally, she set down her spoon. "I need to tell you something too, about why I'm so careful, why I keep people at a distance." You don't have to. No, I do. If you're being honest with me, I should be honest with you. She took a deep breath. When I was in graduate school in Paris, I fell in love. His name was Matthew. He was brilliant, charming, everything I thought I wanted. We were together for 2 years. I thought we would get married. Yi-sung felt a twist of jealousy, but kept his expression neutral. Then I discovered he was engaged to someone else. Someone from a wealthy family, someone who could advance his career. I was just entertainment, a distraction. And when I confronted him, he laughed. He actually laughed and told me I should have known better than to think someone like him would seriously consider marrying someone like me. Someone like you, Yi-sung repeated, his voice hard. A poor African girl with no connections. That's how he saw me. That's all I was to him. He was an idiot and an asshole. A small smile. He was, but he taught me a valuable lesson. People lie. They pretend to be something they're not until they get what they want. So I'm very careful now about who I trust, who I let close to me. The irony was devastating. Here she was, telling him about being deceived, about learning not to trust people who hid their true selves. And in 3 months, she would discover that he had been doing exactly that, hiding who and what he really was. His father's test was going to destroy her. Unless he could find a way to tell her the truth first. Amani, he said slowly, what would you do if you discovered someone you cared about had been lying to you? Not about feelings, but about who they were. She was quiet for a long time. I don't know, it would depend on why they lied, and what they were hiding. What if they were hiding something dangerous, something that could put you at risk just by knowing it? Her eyes narrowed. Yi-sung, what are you trying to tell me? Nothing yet, but soon. Soon I might need to tell you things that will change how you see me, and I need to know if you'd be willing to listen before you judge. That's a lot to ask without context. I know, but I'm asking anyway. She studied him across the table, her expression unreadable. Then, finally, she nodded. Okay, when you're ready to tell me whatever this is, I'll listen. I won't promise to like it or to stay or anything else, but I'll listen. It was more than he deserved, more than he had any right to ask for. Thank you. They finished dinner, the conversation drifting to safer topics, her research, his coursework, the upcoming semester. But underneath it all, Yi-sung could feel the clock ticking. 90 days. Less than that now. He walked her home, through the quiet streets of Seoul at night. At her door, she turned to face him. Tonight felt different, she said, like you were saying goodbye to something. Not goodbye, just preparing. For what? For whatever comes next. She reached up and touched his face, her palm warm against his cheek. You're scared. I've never seen you scared before. I'm terrified, he admitted, of losing you before I really have you. Then don't do whatever you're thinking of doing. Don't take whatever risk you're considering. Just stay here with me in this simple thing we have. If only it were that easy. I'll try, he lied. She kissed him then, soft and sweet, a promise of something that might never have the chance to bloom. When she pulled away, there were tears in her eyes that she quickly blinked away. Good night, Yi-sung. Good night, Amani. He watched her go inside, watched the lights in her apartment flicker on, watched her shadow move past the window. And he thought about his father's test, about the truth that would soon explode between them like a grenade, and wondered if love could really survive in the darkness of his world. His phone buzzed, a message from Lee Min-ho. The timeline has changed. 2 weeks, not 3 months. Get your affairs in order. Yi-sung's blood went cold. 2 weeks. He had 14 days before his father's plan went into motion. 14 days before Amani discovered the truth. 14 days until everything fell apart. 14 days turned out to be 13, then 12, then a blur of stolen moments and mounting dread. Yi-sung spent every available hour with Amani, memorizing the way she laughed at his terrible jokes, the way she unconsciously touched his arm when making a point about post-colonial economic theory, the way her face softened when she thought he wasn't looking. He was running out of time, and he still hadn't found the courage to tell her the truth. On the 8th day, Lee Min-ho appeared at Yi-sung's apartment at 3 in the morning. He let himself in with a key Yi-sung didn't know he had, typical of his father's organization. Nothing was ever truly private. "We need to talk," Lee said, settling into a chair like he owned the place. Yi-sung sat up on the couch where he'd fallen asleep reviewing case studies. "It's 3 a.m., Hyung. The best conversations happen at 3 a.m. That's when people are too tired to lie effectively." Lee pulled out a tablet and swiped through several images. "Your lady friend has been asking questions." Yi-sung's stomach dropped. "What kind of questions?" "About you. She went to the registrar's office yesterday, asked to see your academic records. When they told her that information was private, she filed a formal request. She also called 2 of the scholarship foundations you claim to be working with. Neither had heard of you." "Shit." "Indeed." Lee leaned back, studying him. "She's smarter than you gave her credit for. Something you said or did made her suspicious. Now she's investigating." "What did you tell the registrar?" "Nothing yet. Your father wanted to see how this played out, but Yi-sung, this changes things. She's actively looking into your background now. When she finds out the truth, and she will find out, it won't be on our terms anymore. It'll be messy." Yi-sung stood and paced to the window. Seoul sprawled below him, millions of lights in the darkness, millions of people living their ordinary lives. Why couldn't he have just been one of them? Why couldn't he have met Amani as a real graduate student, someone with nothing to hide? "I have to tell her myself," he said, "before she digs too deep and finds something that puts her in danger." "Your father won't like that. The whole point of the test was to see how she reacted when confronted with the truth in a controlled scenario. The scenario isn't controlled anymore if she's actively investigating. If she starts asking the wrong people the wrong questions, she could stumble into something that gets her killed." Lee was quiet for a moment. "You really love her." "I really love her." "Then you're a fool. Love makes you weak in this business. You know what happened to your mother." "My mother was ambushed by the Takahashi clan because my father was too proud to accept a peace treaty. That had nothing to do with love and everything to do with ego." "Your father tells a different story." "My father tells whatever story justifies his paranoia." Yi-sung turned to face Lee. "I'm going to tell her tomorrow, everything. Who I am, what we do, all of it. And then I'm going to give her a choice, stay and accept this life or walk away and never look back." "If she walks away and then talks?" "She won't talk. She's not vindictive and she's not stupid. She knows that kind of information is dangerous. She'll keep quiet to protect herself if nothing else." Lee stood, sliding the tablet back into his jacket. "I hope you're right, because if you're wrong, I'll have to clean up the mess, and I like her. She has good taste in literature." At Yi-sung's surprised look, Lee shrugged. "I've been following her for 6 months. You learn things. She buys used books from that shop in Sadong every Thursday. Last week it was Chinua Achebe. Good choice." "You're telling me you've been stalking her and critiquing her reading list." "I prefer the term comprehensive surveillance. And yes." Lee moved toward the door, then paused. "Yi-sung, your father is testing you as much as he's testing her. He wants to see if you have the strength to do what's necessary. Don't disappoint him." "What's necessary might not be what he expects." "Then God help you both." After Lee left, Yi-sung didn't go back to sleep. He sat in the darkness and planned how to tell the woman he loved that he'd been lying to her since the day they met. Amani was in her office when he arrived the next morning, but she wasn't working. She was staring at her computer screen with an expression he'd never seen before, cold, analytical, angry. "You're not a graduate student," she said without preamble when he closed the door. "Seoul National University has no record of a Kim Jae-sung enrolled in any doctoral program. The scholarships you mentioned don't exist. You've been lying to me for 8 months." He'd known this was coming, but it still hit him like a physical blow. "Amani." "Who are you?" She stood, and there was steel in her voice. "And don't you dare lie to me again. I've spent the last 3 days digging into your background. I have friends in the administration, contacts in various academic institutions. No one has heard of you. It's like you don't exist." "I exist. just not the way I let you believe. Then explain, right now, or I'm calling security and having you escorted off campus. This was it, the moment everything changed. Yi-sung moved to the window and closed the blinds, then turned to face her. She had moved behind her desk, putting a barrier between them. Smart. My name is Kim Jae-sung. That part is true. But I'm not a graduate student. I'm the son of Kim Tae-won, and my father runs one of the largest criminal organizations in Seoul. Silence. Amani's expression didn't change, but her hand moved slowly toward her phone. I wouldn't do that, Yi-sung said quietly. Not yet. Let me explain first. Then you can decide what to do. You have 5 minutes. He told her everything. About his father's empire, built over 3 generations through a combination of legitimate business and illegal operations. Gambling, money laundering, protection rackets, smuggling. About how he'd been groomed since childhood to take over, trained in both business administration at Harvard and the darker arts of his father's trade. About how he'd seen her giving a guest lecture 9 months ago and become obsessed with understanding her, with being close to her. I enrolled in your class under false pretenses, he admitted. I had forged credentials created, paid off the right people to get into the system. I wanted to know you, and this was the only way I could think to do it without you knowing what I really was. So you lied. For 8 months, you lied to my face every single day. Yes. You let me believe you were a struggling graduate student. You let me worry about your finances, turn down expensive dinners because I thought you couldn't afford them. You made me feel like we were equals when the whole time you were. She gestured helplessly. What slumming, amusing yourself with the poor African professor. No, God, no. Amani, my feelings for you are real. That was never a lie. How would I know? How would I know what's real and what's performance when you've proven you can lie to me so easily? Because I'm telling you the truth now when I don't have to. Because I could have kept this going, kept you in the dark. But you started asking questions, and if you kept digging, you were going to find things that would put you in danger. Her eyes narrowed. What kind of danger? The kind where people who know too much tend to disappear. The kind where curious professors who stumble onto the wrong information have unfortunate accidents. He took a step toward her, and she immediately took a step back. The rejection stung, but he understood it. I'm telling you this to protect you. The less you know about specific operations, the safer you are. But you needed to know who I am because... Because what? Because you thought I'd be impressed. Because you think I'm the kind of woman who would be attracted to a criminal. Because I love you, and I couldn't keep lying to you. She laughed, but it was bitter. You love me, that's rich. You don't lie to people you love, Yi-sung. That's not how love works. In my world, lying is how you protect the people you love. My father never told my mother the full extent of what he did. He thought he was shielding her, but it got her killed because she didn't know enough to see the danger coming. So this is for my own good. The lies were to protect me. At first, yes, I didn't know you. I didn't know if I could trust you. People in my position don't trust easily. And now I trust you enough to tell you the truth, and pray that you don't hate me for it. Amani sank into her chair, her face in her hands. When she looked up, there were tears in her eyes. I don't know what to do with this. I don't know how to process the fact that the man I was falling in love with doesn't actually exist. He does exist. The person you know, the person who sits in your lectures and argues with you about Keynesian economics, who walks you home and listens to you talk about your research for hours. That's real. The only thing that wasn't real was the background. The background is everything, Yi-sung. It's who you are, where you come from, what you believe in. You can't just separate out the convenient parts and expect me to accept the rest. She was right. He knew she was right, but he had to try. What do you want me to do? I'll do anything. I want you to leave. I want you to walk out of this office and never come back. I want to pretend the last 8 months never happened. I can't do that. Why not? Because my father knows about you. And now that you know about me, you're part of this whether we want you to be or not. Fear flickered across her face. Is that a threat? It's a reality. My father has been watching you for months. He knows where you live, where you work, who your friends are. He knows about your brothers in Niger. He knows everything, Amani. And he's been waiting to see what kind of woman captured his son's attention. Oh my God. She stood abruptly, her chair rolling back. This is insane. I need to call the police. I need to. The police can't help you. Half of them are on my father's payroll. The other half are too scared to touch him. Yi-sung moved closer, slowly, like approaching a frightened animal. Listen to me. You are safe as long as you're with me. My father won't touch you while I'm protecting you. But if you run, if you try to disappear or go to the authorities, I can't guarantee what happens. So I'm a prisoner. You're under protection. There's a difference. Is there? She grabbed her bag, her movements sharp and angry. I need time to think. I need to be alone. I'll take you home. No, you will stay here, and I will go home alone like I've done every other day of my life before you decided to play your twisted games. Amani, please. Don't. She held up a hand. Don't say my name like that. Don't pretend that anything between us was real. I need space, Yi-sung. I need to figure out if I'm going to run as far from you as possible or... She trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. Or... I don't know yet. That's what I need to figure out. She left before he could stop her, the door slamming behind her with a finality that echoed through his chest. Yi-sung stood alone in her office, surrounded by her books and her research, the faint scent of her perfume still lingering in the air. His phone buzzed, a text from Lee. She knows. Your father wants to see you, now. Of course he did. T1's office looked the same as it had 2 weeks ago, dark, expensive, intimidating. But this time, there were other people present. Lee Min-ho stood by the window, and 2 other men Yi-sung recognized as his father's senior advisors sat in chairs flanking the desk. Sit, T1 said. Yi-sung remained standing. I'm not here for a meeting. I'm here to tell you to leave Amani alone. One of the advisors, Park, a man who'd been with his father for 30 years, snorted. The boy thinks he gives orders now. The boy is the heir, Yi-sung said coldly. And one day all of you will answer to me. Remember that before you laugh. T1 held up a hand, silencing the room. You told her. Against my explicit instructions, you told her who you are. She was investigating on her own. If I hadn't told her, she would have found out in a way that put her in danger. Or you could have ended it, walked away cleanly, let her think you transferred schools or lost interest. That was always an option. That was never an option. Because you love her. T1 said the word like it was profane. Love made you weak. Love made you compromise your family's security. Love made you betray my trust. I didn't betray anything. I protected someone who could have become a liability because of my actions. That's exactly what you trained me to do. I trained you to eliminate liabilities, not fall in love with them. The room went very quiet. Yi-sung felt the weight of those words, felt the threat beneath them. If you touch her, he said softly, dangerously, there will be consequences. I am your son, your heir. But I am also a man who knows every secret this organization holds. Every account, every operation, every dirty politician and corrupted cop. If anything happens to her, all of that information goes to the authorities, the media, and your competitors. Everything you've built burns. The advisors shifted uncomfortably. Lee closed his eyes as if pained, and T1 smiled. There it is, he said. The ruthlessness I've been waiting to see. You're finally thinking like a leader instead of a lovesick boy. What? This was the real test, Yi-sung. Not whether she could handle the truth about you, whether you could handle the choice between family and love, whether you would have the strength to threaten your own father to protect what you care about. T1 stood and walked around his desk. Your mother would be proud. She threatened me the same way once years ago, worked too. Yi-sung stared at his father, trying to understand. You wanted me to threaten you. I wanted to see if you had a spine, if you were willing to risk everything for something you believed in. A leader who can't make hard choices is useless to me, but a leader who will burn down the world for what matters to him. T1 gripped his son's shoulder. That's someone people will follow into hell. So this whole thing, the test, the timeline, all of it was about me. It was about both of you. I needed to know if she was strong enough to handle the truth, and I needed to know if you were strong enough to choose her despite the consequences. T1 released his shoulder and returned to his desk. She knows now. She has a choice to make, and so do you. What choice? Whether you're willing to let her go if that's what she wants. Whether you can respect her decision even if it breaks your heart. Because that, my son, is what real love looks like. Not possession, not control. The strength to let go. Yi-sung felt something crack in his chest. And if she chooses to stay, then you marry her with my blessing. But you also marry her knowing that she'll be a target for every enemy we have. She'll never be truly safe again. Every time she leaves the house, you'll wonder if she's coming back. Every stranger on the street could be an assassin. Every car accident could be an attempt on her life. T1's voice was heavy with old pain. That's the price of loving someone in our world. Are you willing to pay it? Are you asking me or warning me? Both. Yi-sung thought of Amani, brilliant and principled and brave. Thought of her facing this choice, weighing her values against her feelings. She deserved better than this. Deserved a normal life with a normal man who could give her safety and stability. But she wouldn't get that with him. She'd get danger and secrets and a life lived in shadows. I'm willing, he said finally, but it has to be her choice. No pressure, no manipulation. She decides freely. Agreed. Lee will make sure she has protection whether she stays or goes. If she leaves, she gets a new identity, money to start over anywhere she wants, and a promise that we'll never contact her again. If she stays, T1 met his son's eyes. If she stays, she becomes family, and we protect family. Even though I don't care about her skin color or her nationality or any of that superficial nonsense. I care about strength. If she can survive learning the truth about you and still choose to stay, then she's stronger than most of the men in this room. That's what matters. One of the advisors cleared his throat. Boss, with all respect, bringing an outsider into the family. Is my decision, T1 said flatly. Anyone who has a problem with it can leave. In fact, anyone who has a problem with it should leave now, because if Amani Okafor becomes my daughter-in-law and I hear that she's been disrespected in any way, I will take it very personally. The room fell silent. The threat was clear. Now get out, T1 said. All of you except Yi-sung. The advisors filed out quickly. Lee paused at the door, caught Yi-sung's eye, and nodded once before leaving. When they were alone, T1 poured 2 glasses of whiskey. He handed one to his son. Your mother and I met at a funeral, he said unexpectedly. Her father and my father were business partners. She knew what I was from the start, knew what kind of life she was agreeing to, and she chose it anyway because she loved me. Stupid woman. You loved her too. More than anything, still do. T1 drank deeply. That's why I've been so hard on you about this. I know what it costs to love someone in this world. I know how much it hurts when you lose them, and I've spent 20 years trying to spare you that pain. You can't protect me from everything. I know, but I can make sure that if you're going to suffer, it's worth it. He clinked his glass against Yi-sung's. Go to her. Give her space if she needs it, but make sure she knows that whatever she decides, you'll respect it. And son, if she stays, you spend every day making sure she never regrets that choice. Yi-sung drank, the whiskey burning all the way down. What if she leaves? Then you let her go. You mourn, you heal. And you remember that you loved someone brave enough to walk away from a fortune because her principles mattered more. That's not something to be ashamed of. It feels like it would destroy me. It would. Love always destroys us a little. That's how we know it was real. Yi-sung found Amani at Namsan Park, sitting on a bench overlooking the city. She didn't look surprised to see him. Your people told you where I was, she said. Yes. I can't even hide anymore. Can't disappear into the city. You'll always know where I am. Only if you stay. He sat beside her, careful to leave space between them. If you leave, we'll make sure you can disappear completely. New identity, new life, money to start over. You'll be free of all of this. She was quiet for a long time, watching the sun set over Seoul. I spent the afternoon thinking about everything you told me, about who you are, what your family does, and I realized something. What? I'm angry that you lied. I'm angry that you manipulated your way into my life. I'm angry that you put me in danger without my consent. She turned to look at him, and her eyes were clear. But I'm not surprised. Not really. Part of me always knew there was something different about you, something that didn't quite fit. I just didn't want to see it. I'm sorry. Are you? Are you sorry you met me, sorry you pursued me, sorry you fell in love with me? Or are you just sorry you got caught? I'm sorry that I hurt you. That's the only thing I regret. Not the lies. The lies were necessary. I don't apologize for protecting myself, for being careful in a world where trust is currency and mistakes are fatal. But I should have told you sooner. I should have given you the choice before you fell too deep. She laughed, but it was sad. Before I fell too deep, Jae-sung, I fell in love with you the day you argued with me about Amartya Sen's capabilities approach. You were so passionate, so certain. I thought, this man actually cares about the things I care about. This man sees the world the way I do. Turns out you were just playing a role. I wasn't playing. My interest in development economics is real. I got a degree in international business from Harvard because I genuinely believe our organization needs to evolve, needs to invest in legitimate enterprises that benefit communities instead of exploiting them. That part was never a lie. But you're still a criminal. Yes. You've broken laws, hurt people, probably killed people. He didn't answer, which was answer enough. And you want me to accept that, to look past it and see only the man who brought me coffee and walked me home and made me laugh. She stood, packing in front of the bench. Do you know what that makes me? What kind of person accepts that their partner is a criminal? A person who understands that the world isn't black and white, that people are complex and contradictory and capable of both terrible and beautiful things. That's a pretty speech. Did you practice it? No, I'm making this up as I go, just like you are. We're both trying to figure out if there's any way forward from here. Amani stopped packing and faced him. Your father offered me money, a new life. Did you know that? I asked him to. I wanted you to have options. He also offered me protection if I stayed. Told me I'd become family, that no one would touch me. That's also true. But he warned me too. Told me that loving you would be dangerous. That I'd spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder, wondering when someone would try to hurt you. That's the reality of this life. Is it worth it? She moved closer, standing directly in front of him. Is loving you worth living in fear? I don't know. I can't make that choice for you. What if I asked you to leave? To walk away from your father, from the organization, from all of it? Could you do that? No. She flinched, and he hated himself for the honesty. Not because I don't love you enough, he continued, but because leaving doesn't work that way. You don't retire from this life. You either die or you take over. Those are the only options. If I tried to walk away, we'd both be targets. We'd spend our lives running, always looking back, never safe. At least if I stay, I have the power to protect you. So I have to accept your world, or lose you completely. Yes. She sat back down beside him, and this time she took his hand. Her fingers were cold, trembling slightly. I should leave, she whispered. I should take your father's offer and disappear. Go back to Niger or move to Europe or anywhere that isn't here. I should protect my heart and my conscience and walk away from you forever. But I love you. Despite everything, despite the lies and the danger and the impossibility of it all, I love you. And I hate myself a little for it. Jae-sung brought her hand to his lips, kissed her knuckles gently. You don't have to decide right now. Take time, think about it. I'll wait as long as you need. If I stay, things have to change. What do you mean? I mean I'm not going to be some crime boss's wife who stays quiet and looks pretty and doesn't ask questions. If I'm going to be part of this world, I want to understand it. And more than that, I want to change it. He started to protest, but she held up her hand. I'm serious, Jae-sung. You said you want to invest in legitimate businesses, things that help communities. I want to be part of that. I want to use my expertise to help your organization transition away from exploitation and toward actual development. If I'm going to compromise my principles by staying with you, then I need to feel like I'm making a positive difference. My father would never agree to that. Then convince him, because that's my price. I don't want protection money or a new identity. I want purpose. I want to know that loving you doesn't mean abandoning everything I believe in. Yi-sung stared at her, this brilliant, stubborn, impossible woman who somehow thought she could reform a criminal empire from the inside. And maybe, just maybe, she could. I'll talk to him, he said. I can't promise anything, but I'll try. That's all I'm asking. They sat together as the sun finished setting, painting Seoul in shades of gold and purple. Below them, the city pulsed with life, millions of stories, millions of choices, millions of people trying to find their way through complicated lives. I'm scared, Amani admitted quietly. I'm terrified of what I'm choosing, but I'm more terrified of losing you. We'll figure it out, together. Together, she repeated, like she was testing the word. That's going to take some getting used to. We have time. Do we? In your world, do people really have time, or does everything end in blood and tragedy? Sometimes, but sometimes people survive. Sometimes love is stronger than violence. We'll find out which one we are. She leaned her head against his shoulder, and he wrapped his arm around her. They stayed like that until the stars came out, two people caught between worlds, trying to build something real out of lies, and danger, and impossible hope. Neither of them noticed Lee Min-ho watching from a distance, speaking quietly into his phone. They're together. Yes, sir, she's staying. Should I maintain surveillance? Whatever T1 said made Lee smile. Understood, I'll make sure she's protected. And sir, congratulations, I think she's going to be good for him. Lee ended the call and disappeared into the shadows, leaving the couple alone on the hillside, silhouetted against the glowing city, betting everything on love in a world built on betrayal. It was either the bravest thing they'd ever done, or the most foolish. Time would tell,